Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out?
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 339. Hope you are amazing. As always, I'm always going to say it. I really do. It's been an amazing year already, and we're only, 14th of January 2022, just in case you want a little time reference. But life's beautiful, man, and I really hope the same thing is for you. Do you know what? We get to this stage of the year and we put such pressure on ourselves as a society about Christmas and presents and whatever the heck that means. And then New Year. And everyone's got programs out about the New Year and creating results and goals and, all of this nonsense. And at the end of the day, there's only one thing that you should be focused on. Seriously, this one thing is the most important thing that you can ever focus on. It's way more important than money. It's way more important than money, right? Do you know what it is? Of course you know what it is. It's happiness. It's feeling grateful for every second you're alive, for every breath that you're taking. You should be grateful for everything that you have around you right here, right now. The people that annoy you, right, but love you, you should be grateful for them. You should be grateful for the house you are in, the apartment that you're in, and the money that you can spend on food and your rent or your mortgage or whatever it is. You should be so damn grateful. Because there's been times in your life, and I know you, but there's been times in your life that you would have dreamt and be so grateful for where you are in your life right now. Does that make sense? I bet you it's true. If you're listening to this, right, you've got a phone or you've got a laptop, you've got a means of listening to this, right? Probably got some headphones, right? But the truth is, everything that is going on in your life, if it wasn't there, you'd miss it, right? If it wasn't there, that person that in your family that annoys you but you love, if they weren't there ever again, would you miss them? Would it cause problems? Would it hurt you? Right. So what would happen if you just reached out to them today and said, I love you, or what's up, or whatever's going on, right? What would happen if that bank or whatever you've got your money saved in and it's growing? I know there's times in your life that you didn't have that much. We all have been there, right? I know that your health could be good, could be bad, but it's probably been worse. So you should be grateful that the health level that you're at right now, you've got. Those ideas that you have in your head that keep pumping, right? Those people that keep coming around you, those things that are showing you a bigger, brighter, more exciting future. Guess what? You should be grateful for those. Because there was once that you didn't have those ideas, that creativity, that freedom, that flexibility. And I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but what I do know is that you're human. Do you know what I mean? Well, hopefully you're human. You could have a bit of alien in you, but let's say you're human, right? I know as a human being, we all get stressed. We all get overwhelmed. We can all get anxious. We can all get sick. We can all feel happy. We can all be rich. We can all be whatever is going on in your life. But I want you to understand all of that happens from the inside out. Does that make sense? And I've done this for so long, this game of building high performers, that just becoming better as a human being than you ever knew was possible, being able to handle so much intense pressure, but you're in a flow than you ever thought was possible. That's what I do for people. I make people superhumans. That's what I do. But the truth is, after 19 years, it'll be 20 years this year, of doing that, and I've looked in the minds of billionaires, I've looked in the minds of NBC stars, I've looked in the mind of Hollywood actors and producers, I've looked in the mind of startups, I've looked in the mind of some of the top traders in the world. I've looked in the mind of world champions. I've looked in the mind of everyday people. And thousands and thousands and thousands of these people. And you know what I found? There's always another level. There's always more that we want. There's always something else we want to achieve. You got $1 million today, then you're going to want to make it too. If you've got the biggest biceps that you've ever had, you're going to want to make them bigger. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a luxury lifestyle and freedom right now, there's part of you that wants more. And you've got to be truthful with yourself to really work out what you want. What's your highest value in life? Meaning, what's the most important things to you? It's so important that you understand that, especially as we move into 2022. You know, there's so many people obsessed with money and looks in social media, right? That's what it promotes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But where is it coming from inside of you? Is it from external validation that you have to look a certain way, or have to have a certain type of lifestyle, or certain type of bank account, or you have to have certain achievements to feel fulfilled? Does that ring a bell with you? Ring a bell, it's so British. But does that make sense? Because I know, looking into the highest level of minds, that they are still working on themselves. They still get anxious, still get stressed, still get anxiety, still freak out, right? Still have sleepless nights, still worry about money, even if you've got millions of dollars. So when you start to understand this, you have to be something. And what is it? Yeah, you got to be kind on yourself. Because the truth is, we can only do our best. And then when you start to understand the power of the unconscious mind, right? When you start to understand it's the body mind, it's the bit of your mind that blinks, you breathe, you affects your lymph system, your adrenal glands, your heart rate. Yeah, it does. It does all of that. But what else does it do? It also runs certain patterns in the brain, and those certain patterns directly affect your behavior. That's what happens, right? So the way you're thinking about 2022, you might have stepped into it being pumped up, damn excited. And then already you start to lose that mojo, right? Been there? Is that you? Well, the truth is, your brain works like a muscle, and you have to pump it the exact way you want it to perform. So whatever you're dominantly feeling as you think about money, your business, sales, right? What's going to happen in 2022, your relationship, your health, all of those things. Well, whatever it's directly focused on, the pattern is going to build more. So this is why entrepreneurs get stuck when they're growing, and when we're growing to the next level, moving from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10 figures. If that's your focus, or launching something new, or putting yourself out into the world, right? Getting on social media, showing your face. And it might sound crazy, but the amount of successful people I've spoke to that have an issue with putting themselves out into the world because they might get judged by old family, old friends, as well as new ones, right? The new ones probably accept who you are right now, right? That's usually what happens. But it's the old friends who still see you as, I don't know, who you were like 20 years ago. I know what it's like when I've just come back from the UK. Actually, I've just come back from Latin America, and then I was in the UK before that. Over the past 2-3 months, and now I'm in a different country again. Just so you know, but I don't tell everyone what countries they are. I just do my thing, you know. But back anyway to those people, highly successful people, but they're generally behind the scenes, so they're not in the public eye. And what that means is that's a whole new set of skill. Because what being in the public eye actually does is it starts to light up your own traumas, your own triggers, your own self-worth. Because everybody's listening to what you're saying. And I say everybody, it starts out small, but then it gets bigger. But they're listening to your words, and those words or video are there forever now, right? They're there forever. So when we've experienced this limiting side of us because we want to share our voice with the world, but people get scared. And so what I'm here to say is it doesn't matter what level of the game you're playing at. It's a game, and you can get better at it. And if part of that game is putting yourself out into the world and showing who you are from your heart and being authentic, then it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks, what anybody says, ever. Because you're just being you, the real you. So my next question to you is, and ask yourself this, seriously ask yourself, what if you were unapologetically you? What would you do next? What decision would you make? What business brand would you launch? Would you stay in the job that you are, or would you get a new one? Would you stay in the career that you are, or would you try something brand new? And forget the word try. Would you do something brand new that's going to give you so much fulfillment, so much happiness, that your intuition, your soul, your heart is screaming at you, right? Because that's the first step. Then we can build the neurological patterns. Then we can adjust the nervous system. Then we can tweak memories and things like that and build new performance habits and performance views of the world and ways to interrupt patterns and step into flow states and all of these things that I build into people's brains and give them the tools for. Then you can do all those things, but it starts with a decision, and that decision is to be you. Unapologetically, authentically you. And what if you were? What if you were? Well, Andy, yeah, but it might not work out. It's true. It's true. It might not work out. But the next thing might. And the next thing after that might. And the next thing after that might be the biggest thing that anyone's ever seen in the world. Do you know what I mean? And that's what happens with every stage of growth. You learn lessons. I always talk about this moving from white belt to black belt. The black belt understands everything that the white belt knows. But the white belt has no idea what the black belt knows. And if they both were doing the same movements, the white belt thinks that he understands what the black belt knows or does. But he has no idea, but the black belt will always know what the white belt's doing. And when you can understand that concept with any stage of your life, with anything in business, really relate to that. Because what that means is that someone who's got earning $1 million a month, well, they've focused on what? A very specific set of beliefs, focus, value, expectation. They've been able to put themselves in such a clean focus that becomes their dominant reality, right? And so it's the same with anything. Someone's got good at chess because they spent more time, effort, and energy at playing chess than you. Someone's become an Olympic athlete because they've spent more time, effort, and energy doing that. But obviously, they've all got super talents and we have natural abilities. I'm never going to be Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan was, because he used all those superpowers onto his already existing talent. And that's not what gets taught in the world right now. They think what gets taught by marketers is such BS, and it drives me crazy. Because they show people an easy path, and they assume that everyone has those superpowers. But they don't. They don't. Not everyone can get on a stage and light a room up. Now, everybody can get on a stage and do well, but not everyone can be Kanye West or whoever, right? It doesn't work like that. So we've got to really delve deep inside ourselves and find out what our superpowers are. What is it that stands out? What do we love? What are we pulled to? What do we find easy? What excites us? And when you can really work that out, everything changes because you're in alignment with your path and you're pulled to take action, pulled to do something different, pulled to move forwards. And when you can understand that, then you're not grinding. I hate that word, grinding. I hate it so much because if you look at the actual dictionary definition of grinding, it means pulverization, destroying, right? So you can grind and destroy yourself, or you can learn how to be in, peak states, flow states, and be able to step into any situation, anywhere, no matter what it is, and perform at your very, very best. Does that make sense? So there's a nice little rant to start off with, everybody, but I hope that helped you. Hope that helped you specifically get clarity on 2022 and what you really want to achieve. And speaking of achieving, that's what today's episode is all about. Obviously, you heard maybe we're going to be in the metaverse soon. So you heard that little clip from Steve Jobs. It's from a profound speech that he gave. And I'm basically going to play most of it. Do you know what I mean? And I'll jump in and do my thing. But Steve Jobs was an incredible human being in every capacity. It doesn't mean that he was the best human being at everything in his life. Of course not, right? There's sacrifices. There's sacrifices to everything. And the biggest thing he sacrificed was his health and his relationships. And what he did is he left something so game-changing on Earth, that we can't really understand how much he changed the world in an incredible way, And I think Elon's doing that in many capacities in his own way. And we have these incredible human beings that come in and they just advance society, they advance culture, they change it in dramatic ways. And I just hope that it was for the right reason. But I really believe that he came down here for that specifically. I really, really do, So you got to ask the question, what are you here for? What are you here for? Right? And you give it, I don't know, Andy, I'm eating a burrito right now, mate. What are you on about? I get it. But if we went bigger than what you got for dinner, what are you pulled to, man? What is it inside of you that's driving you, that there's a fire inside of that you might be going with or might be going against? But either way, you can't put it out. You know that feeling, right? You can't put it out. It's just what is. It's our intuition. It's our guidance system. It's the thing that pulls us. And we can go down any rabbit hole here. We can go metaphysical. We can go deep into the science. We can go deep into philosophy. We can go deep into wherever you want to go. But the truth is, we have this guidance system inside of us that pulls us towards or away from certain things. Now, you could go pain and pleasure. It pulls towards pleasure, moves away from pain. But I think it's more than that. I think it's way, way more than that. And that's going to be a topic for another time, I think, But I really believe everyone's got such a unique set of skills that we can get caught up in society and we can get taken way off track. Do you know, if everyone was here for one thing and everyone had a skill to be able to help somebody else, then money wouldn't be a problem. Money would go away. It's only egotistical people, or they start collecting, that imagine if money just circulated. Imagine if you couldn't have any money in your bank or any money, right? Think about this. And all you could do at the end of the day was you had to circulate that money back round. Then guess what? You wouldn't hold on to any, and every day it'd be about helping people. Think about that. If the money was designed just to help someone and you had to spend it at the end of the day or the week or the month or whatever, right? And it was only had to be spent on food and life, but then helping somebody else. Imagine how incredible society would be if your bank was empty, but it was empty because all you did was help people. What a mind-blowing culture change that would be, right? And speaking of mind-blowing culture changes, as we jump into the episode, I want you to hit the show notes up. Yeah, I'm here to help you, I can't help you unless you help yourself. And we've got incredible things that are going on. If you are a trader, crypto, forex, stocks, options, whatever it is, and you're an amateur, wannabe, or pro, doesn't matter. We have the Genius Trader Club that is for you. It is the premier mental performance training or course that exists for traders on earth. Test it right now. Go to the geniustrader.club. You're going to absolutely love it. Check the training out, the webinar out, and I know you're going to love it. So go and buy that today. What else? Well, we've got one of the top marketers in the world, and I've been called, even the other day actually, one of the top mental performance coaches in the world. And what me and Ryan have done, and we've teamed up to create the Radical Formula. It's brand and brain engineering to scale people's businesses and actually tell truth of what's out there instead of this nonsense. Ryan's worked with the NFL, he's worked with Verizon, everybody. I've worked with royalty, world champions, and everybody else. And I want to be able to share this with you because I'm so pumped about getting this out to the world. We launched the end of January, so in a couple of weeks, I fly over and we are recording so much content. It's going to be mind-blowing. It's a mastermind, so you get to interact with us live every single week. That's mind-blowing in itself, and there's going to be a back-end membership site with badass content in there, private guest interviews, so many cool things. You, right now, can sign up for the VIP list and be the first to hear all about it and get a badass discount too. So go to theradicalformula.com, theradicalformula.com, and just put your name in. It's that easy. Go and do it. What else we got on the go? Well, finishing off, the 8-Figure Thinker Mental Performance Academy or Mental Training Academy. It's genuinely like mind-blowingly good. It's mind-blowingly good. I've just gone through it again myself. And if you are an entrepreneur who at any level who wants to take things to a whole different stratosphere of understanding how to control your mind, how to create massive influence in your audience or on stage or just anywhere, right? In sales. So we've got subliminal sales in there. We've got peak state. We've got crazy detailed anchoring, subliminal language patterns, NLP language patterns. We've got... It goes on. It's the best hypnosis / installs, trance work that exists out there. I'm going to be selling them separately because they're so good, but you get them all inside the 8-Figure Thinker. That gets launched in the next couple of weeks. We're just finishing it off, and you can jump on the VIP list for that right now. It's just 8, as in the number, 8figurethinker.com. 8figurethinker.com. Go to all of those things now, depending on what you want to play at. But either way, just do something. We've got to make sure that we're safe in 2022. So take action. And speaking of taking action, should we go and listen to Steve? You know, my mate Steve. Let's go and have a little listen to Steve. And I will see you at the end of the show.
Today, I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference.
So, crew, ask yourself right now, when you look in the past, what skills have you learned that you know that you're really good at or you're fascinated with that in the future you could potentially use? Or another way to look at it, what in the past have you done skill-wise that you know you can harness right now in your life? Because we might not know what's going to happen in the future, but what are we pulled to? As Steve said there, just like I said before, your intuition. What's fascinating as I look back, right? My intuition has kept me so safe. And it's also when I go against it or have gone against it in the past, it's led me into some crazy circumstances. You know what I mean? At the age of 24, I left and just went to Australia. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a job. But guess what? I knew that I was supposed to go there. I was working in computers at the time, IT, but I didn't love it. But I knew it was going to help me. So I got to Australia and a couple of months later, that's where I found NLP, that's where I found sales, and I became the top performer in Australia, or one of the top performers in Australia. And then we got headhunted to New Zealand. I became one of the top performers in New Zealand for investment real estate. And I was young, man. I was like 24, 25, 26. And it's only because I took that risk. I got pulled by my intuition. I got guided there, if you want to call it that I just found myself in those circumstances. It's like it was always written. It's like you were always meant to do it. You just had to do it. Do you know what I mean? And it's so many times in our life where we don't just go for it. So many times in our life that we hesitate or self-question or doubt ourselves. And those times in our life is where we feel stagnant or frustrated or lost or down on ourselves. And it's only when we come back into alignment, when we listen to ourselves, when we're pulled towards what's new, that everything changes. Does that make sense? And if you understand that everything can change just by listening to your intuition, then shouldn't we just always do that? Shouldn't we always do that? Just like Steve Jobs just said, right? He had no idea why calligraphy was going to be important. But it 100% was. It changed the whole of the world. It allowed graphic designers to do different things. It allowed us to express different emotions in a different way. It allowed us to feel personal with people. All by what? Him doing a calligraphy class when he was young? Doesn't make sense, does it? And just like he said, the dots don't add up when you look forwards. But as I look back on all the skills and the lessons and the highs and the low lows and the high highs that I've had, they've all given me a certain perspective, a certain view, a certain skill, a certain belief system. And when you get that inside of you, you're unbreakable. And when you become unbreakable, you become bulletproof. And when you become bulletproof, you gain 8-figure thinking. You gain a radical formula, right? You gain mindset by design. And when you can do that, your life becomes very different. It becomes more flow. And you begin to trust the next invisible step that's not there, but it's always there.
My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle.
That gives me goosebumps, because that's one of the most powerful parts of any speech that's ever been said, ever, right? And what he says there, it goes against everything that's taught in so many people or mindset people or entrepreneurs world, right? You don't need to love what you do, you just push through. And it's and the other one is fuck your feelings. Don't ever fuck your feelings. No, your feelings are the most important thing ever. But you have to learn not to react to them. But you use them as fuel. Because he used that love as fuel. He used it as energy. That's what drove him forward. That's what created Apple. That's what gave him the results. That's why I'm talking to you and I'm on a Mac right now. Because he loved what he did. So if you don't love what you do, how can you have that fuel, that energy, or that driver, as I call it, inside of you to create the results that you want? If someone didn't love tennis, it's very hard to become the best in the world. And you might go, yeah, but you got all these stories about the parents pushing them. Absolutely. But they still had to, deep down inside of them, love it. It's the same with business, right? It's a game. And you have to love it. But it's the same with your life. Your life is a game. You have to love it. You have to have that fuel inside of you. Otherwise, what happens? Nothing happens. And it's like the great Wayne Dyer said, right? He said, look at an orange. He says, if you squish an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. Right? If you throw it against the wall and it splatters all over the wall, what comes out? Orange juice. If you run over it with a truck, what comes out? Orange juice. You can only give to other people what you have inside of you. So if you have sadness, loneliness, if you have anger, if you have frustration, if you have overwhelm, if you hate what you're doing and hate yourself and hate your life, how can you give that to anybody else? You can't. And the whole point of why you're here on earth is to create ripples of energy, to create ripples of effect. You are the cause. The effect is helping other people. That's the point in life, right? And if you're missing that, then you need to reevaluate. You need to sit down and get strategically focused on how you want your life to be. How do you want to experience your life? And when you can understand that one question I've asked thousands of people, how do you want to experience your life? I want to earn $10 million, Andy. Beautiful. How do you want to experience earning $10 million? Because you can do it through drugs, you can do it through charity, you can do it through whatever it is. It becomes your choice. But you have to love what you do.
My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Mind blowing. Mind blowing. I've heard that so many times. I've done videos about this. I've heard that statement so many times. Be young, be foolish, and listen to your heart as it always knows what to do. So if you're listening to this, you're here for a reason, right? You're not just playing. You're not just seeing what happens. You're here for a reason. You've listened to this episode, this podcast right now for a reason. You've been brought here for a reason. And it's about decisions. Life is about decisions. Everything's just one decision away. Everything. Happiness, sadness, traveling, doing the best holiday or vacation you've ever had, starting a business, not starting a business. Everything is one decision away. And what holds us back, and it breaks my heart, is fear. And fear has been so installed in society's culture when it could be the opposite. It could be beauty. It could be happiness. But your heart, it knows what to do. Your heart led you here and it knows where it's going to lead you next. And the beautiful thing is we just don't know what's going to happen next. We can only guide our life. We can't control our life. Does that make sense? I hope so. Because the truth is, and it's harsh to say, but death is a very real thing. And the older you get now, the more important every breath is. The more important all the people around you are, the people that you love are. Everything is so important. You have to live your life to the fullest. You have to. So whatever's in your heart, it's time to take action. It's time to do something different. And it's time to step up into a whole new life. You have a whole new year of 2022 ahead of you. Use it. Use it wisely. And in 12 months, by the end of this year, if we had this conversation next year, right? In 2023, I want you to be living how you want to be living. If you don't care about money, then who cares? If you want the farm and the lifestyle, go and get it. If you want to be free, whatever it is to you, do it, right? Because life is precious and your heart always seems to know the right thing to do. So crew, there we are, the end of episode 339, Steve Jobs' 3 stories that changed the world forever. And speaking of changing your world forever, you gotta do it, right? I'd suggest you share this episode with somebody. I suggest that you write me a review. I also suggest that you head over to the show notes and hit it on either of 3 links. 1, if you are a trader of any capacity, you need the geniustrader.club in your life. Go and check it out. You're gonna love it. 2, if you are scaling your business online right now and want the support from 2 world-class experts, and you can get access to them every week in a community live, then you need the radicalformula.com in your life. If you want to become a Jedi at your mind in business and life, then you need the 8figurethinker.com in your life. 8figurethinker.com. All of those things are the most powerful things out there, and I know they are, so I put my name behind them, and it's going to change your life forever. So go and tune in, go and step up, go and do that now. Click one of those links that's ready for you. And I'm just here to help. That's all I'm here for. I want you to have the most incredible, incredible life. You deserve it. So hit those show notes up, hit those links up. You know where to find me, Andy Murphy Mindset, on any platform. And until the next time, you have a beautiful, beautiful week. And I will see you next time. Oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.